Vrindaye Tulsi Devi Aye Priyaye Kesavachachaya Satyavachaya Namo Vrindaye Tulsi Devi Priyaye Kesavachaya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachaya Namo Namaha Jai Tulsi Maharani ki Jai. We offer our most respectful obeisances to all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned soul. Vanchakalpa Tubhascha, Kripa Sindhubhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.
So we want to welcome back
Haribol.
Joey.
Yeah. Formerly Joey.
Hi.
That was many moons ago.
That was many years ago.
That was like 10 years ago, maybe?
10 years ago.
10?
At least 10, right?
Yeah. 10 or 12, yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Thank you. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vandajari. Yamuna Chiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanajari Yamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Astatara Parikacharya's Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Natakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Gangamaya Ki Jai Shri Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So today we're reading from the 10th canto. We're into chapter 77 now. And started off, and today we're going to read text 2. Viramantam swasayani Dyumantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya pratyavidyam Narachairastabhismaya Viramantam swasayani Dyumantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya pratyavidyam Narachairastabhismaya Viramantam swasanyani Dhyamantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya pratanyadyam Narachairastabhismayam Viramantam swasanyani Yomantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya pratyavidyam Narachairastabhismayam Viramantam swasayani Dyumantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya vidyam Narachairastabhismayam. Ladies? Viramantam swasanyani Yumantam rukmini sutta Pratihatya pratyavidyam Narachairastabhismayam Viramantam smashing Swa his Sainyani soldiers Dyumantam Dyuman Rukmini Sutta the son of Rukmini Pradyumna Pratihatya counter-attacking Pratyavidyat he struck back Narachai with special arrows made of iron Astabi 8 Smaya while smiling. Translation: in Pradyumna's absence, Dyuman had been devastating his army, but now Pradyumna counterattacked Dyuman and, smiling, pierced him with 8 Naracha arrows. Please repeat: in Pradyumna's absence, Dyuman had been devastating his army, but now Pradyumna counterattacked Dyuman and, smiling, pierced him with 8 Naracha arrows. Purport: Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that Pradyumna challenged Dyuman, saying, "Now see if you can strike me." After saying this and allowing Dyuman to shoot his weapons, Pradyumna released his own deadly arrows. And I'm going to go ahead and read the next chapter, which does not have a purport. There are purports by the acharyas to these, just short, but it kind of just completes this little snippet. Chaturbis chaturo vahan sutam ekena chahana dvabhyam danuscha ketuncha sarena nanyena vaisira. With four of these arrows, he struck Duman's 4 horses, and with 1 arrow, his driver, with 2 more arrows, his bow and chariot flag, and with the last arrow, Duman's head. Om Gyana Tinamandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilinam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So yesterday we were hearing all about the Kshatriya mood of Ishwara Bhava. And I must admit that spoke to me personally because upon further examination, that bhava it's not what it sounds like. It sounds very much like controlling and like that. And it is to some extent, but actually the bhav actually encompasses protection and being chivalrous. And of course, there's some measure of control there, but it's for the betterment of everyone. It's actually for the good. The intentions are all very good. And we know in Kshatriya Dharma, it centers on, governance, protecting the vulnerable, particularly upholding justice, and fighting righteous wars. That's what Kshatriyas in that time, place, and circumstance did. Fighting righteous wars against oppression, fighting those who are demonic in nature, and against Krishna particularly. And it's interesting because in this particular little snippet, we see that Pradyumna, who was taken off the battlefield a little while ago by his charioteer out of fear of reprisal or harm to his person he was driving, he took him away. But Pradyumna, we know, was very, very upset with that. In fact, I just wanted to read in the... where is it? Yeah. A little bit that Prabhupada says when he goes into chapter 77 of the Krishna book. After talking with his charioteer, the son of Dwaraka, Pradyumna could understand the real circumstances because he was very upset to be taken out of the battle. Therefore, he refreshed himself by washing his mouth and hands. He did achman. And we know he put on his armor. And after arming himself properly with bows and arrows, he asked the charioteer to take him near the place where Shalva's commander-in-chief was standing. During the short absence of Pradyumna from the battlefield, Duman, Shalva's commander-in-chief, had been taking over the positions of the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. In fact, I was reading in a few sources that it was quite bloody. I mean, it was quite devastating. He was really, trying to, with the absence of their person in charge, he was really trying to do some heavy damage. But appearing on the battlefield, Pradyumna immediately stopped him and, Prabhupada said, smiling, shot 8 arrows at him. And with 4 arrows, he killed Duman's 4 horses. With 1 arrow, his driver. And another, he cut his bow in 2. And with another, he cut his flag in pieces. And with the last, he severed his head from his body. And of course, there was other things going on at the time. But speaking like this about Pradyumna, calling him Rukmini Sutta, and that he was smiling, it gives a little bit different picture of how it looked, because Pradyumna is the incarnation of Kamadev. He's the son of Krishna. He's the incarnation of Kamadev. So of course Pradyumna is going to appear, extremely chivalrous. And we know in so many action films, I'm sure everybody's seen over the years, the most satisfying conclusion is when the hero rushes in and decimates everybody, and he does it very easily and smiling, and he's not at all perturbed. He just does things very quickly, and it's sort of magical. And that's chivalrous, when you're rushing in, and that's your real mood. A lot of times when people are fighting, and they're kind of fighting and they don't really want to fight, you can tell. They're kind of, and it's reluctance, you know, they're trying to hold back, or they're fearful. They're not very, you know, they're not very open or expressive in their dharma or in their activities of fighting. But we see Rukmini Sutta, you know, rushed in, and, you know, he was smiling. He was very relaxed. This was part of his whole, this whole bhav, you know, his whole bhav. And I just wanted to explore a little bit that chivalrous bhav, which goes hand in hand with a real Kshatriya. A real Kshatriya is someone that really, I'm going to say, lives and breathes by that order or that command to govern and to protect and to uphold justice and to exhibit the righteous sort of behavior. In the Nectar Devotion in chapter 46, chivalry is, Srila Prabhupada wrote a little bit about chivalry, and which I like to read, because it paints a very, again, a very satisfying picture. You know, we always love it when someone comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam and dispatches the demons, but it's a little special when someone rides in on their, you know, their chariot, their horse and chariot, very gallantly and valiantly, and dispatches the problems of everyone in a smiling and joyful mood. And when on account of love and devotional service for the Lord, there is special valorous enthusiasm, the resultant activities are called chivalrous. Special valorous enthusiasm, really into being valorous, really into that protecting. These chivalrous activities can be manifested in the acts of mock fighting, giving charity, showing mercy, and executing religious principles. By performing chivalrous activities in fighting, one is called Yuddha Vira. So he was doing that chivalrous activity of dispatching this person and smiling. By charitable activities, one is called Dana Vira. By showing extraordinary mercy, one is called Daya Vira. Now we know. When one is munificent in executing religious rites, he is called Dharma Vira. In all such different chivalrous activities, Krishna is the object. When a friend wants to satisfy Krishna by performing some chivalrous activities, the friend becomes the challenger and Krishna himself becomes the opponent. Or else Krishna may give audience to the fighting, and by his desire, another friend becomes the opponent. A friend once challenged Krishna thus, "My dear Madhava, you are very restless because you think no one can defeat you. But if you do not flee from here, then I shall show you how I can defeat you, and my friends will be very satisfied to see this." So Krishna really gets into this bhav, you know, this sort of chivalrous bhav too. He actually, it's a secondary rasa, but it's, you know, it's conjunct with other rasas, and Krishna himself enjoys that so much. And of course, his glorious son, the son of he and Rukmini, you know, would also enjoy and can display it very nicely. Because if Krishna kills somebody and then starts smiling, I mean, you know, when we see him kill demons, he's very, a little bit more serious about it because he's in his, you know, his fighting mood, right? And sometimes he does things in a way where, you know, it's effortless. It seems effortless, and he's doing all these sort of Kshatriya Dharma type of things. But the chivalrous bhav is more, it seems that it's more in a playful mood when Krishna challenges his friends, or, you know, they can actually exchange in that way, because it doesn't have to be one-sided. You know, if someone's a Kshatriya and someone is sort of not a Kshatriya, they're not really going to exchange that rasa in the same way. We know, after hearing about so many battles, that a lot of times both the opposing parties would sit down at night together and break bread and would actually have, discussions or laugh. They would have fellowship after a full day of battle. That is also quite chivalrous. That's real Kshatriya Dharma. It's a little bit of a detachment, obviously. There's some emotional detachment. You're not really thinking that, okay, I'm having dinner with this person tonight, maybe I'll kill him tomorrow. That's not even a thought. There's actually, real connection that's going on because you're both in that same mood, that sort of chivalrous mood. Krishna and Sudama were very intimate friends, yet Sri Dhamma, out of anger with Krishna, challenged him. When both of them began to fight, all the friends on the bank of Jamuna enjoyed the wonderful fighting of the two friends. Friends fighting out of this sort of chivalrous type of ras. They prepared some arrows for mock fighting, and Krishna began to throw his arrows at Sri Dhamma. Sri Dhamma began to block these arrows by whirling his pole, and by Sri Dhamma's chivalrous activities, Krishna became very satisfied. Such mock fighting generally takes place among chivalrous persons and creates wonderful excitement for all viewers. That's when the smiling and the effortless fighting comes in, No sweat, no fuss, no muss. They look perfectly intact at the end. There is a statement in the Hari Vamsa that sometimes Arjuna and Krishna fought in the presence of Kunti, and Arjuna would be defeated by Krishna. In such chivalrous fighting between friends, there is sometimes bragging, complacence, pride, power, taking to weapons, challenging and standing as an opponent. All of these symptoms become impetuses to chivalrous devotional service. And of course, we can see that Pradyumna, while he's quite chivalrous, he's acting in perfect knowledge of Krishna, and he's acting in his perfect dharma. Dhyuman was not. And it's a two-way street, So many times we've seen the demons who have pending doom upon them by Krishna, and at any second, or his associates, at any second, they could throw up their hands. They could say, "Uncle, I'm deeply sorry. I'm deeply regretting that I started this whole, thing," and thereby saving themselves, even up to the last second. But sometimes people become so entrenched in their position and their identity, even if the identity is deplorable or, undesirable. They become so entrenched in that they, and emboldened by others and their own self-ego, they can't really back down. So if there's not that, maybe someone chivalrous, but if another person's not, they're not really going to be a match for the actual Dharma. The actual Dharma of these personalities is exemplary, and we can only try to aspire to them. But, in our daily lives, we can also, if we're fighting or if we're, even mock fighting, there can be a dialogue. There can be some give and take. There should be. That's actually an exchange. That's sort of an interpersonal exchange. There should be that kind of exchange as far as possible. Because, for us particularly, not so much here, it boils down to humanity, or just being a real, authentic, decent personality who is just acting in their dharma and is well-intentioned. And if someone, say Dhyuman or others, are just acting out of their own, self-interest, or they're acting out of their own egotistical desires, then they can't be reckoned with. They can't be chivalrous with. They can't actually, there's no exchange there. One friend challenged Krishna thus, "My dear friend Damodar, you are an expert only in eating. You have defeated Shubal only because he is weak, and you adopted cheating means. Don't advertise yourself to be a great fighter by such action. You have advertised yourself as a serpent, and I am the peacock who will now defeat you." The peacock is the ablest enemy of the serpent. So in such fighting between friends, when the self-advertisement becomes personal, learned scholars say that it is sub-ecstasy. When there is a roaring challenge, certain kinds of movement for fighting, enthusiasm, no weapons, and assurance given to frightened witnesses, all these chivalrous activities are called sub-ecstasy. So Pradyumna was probably having a little of that, some kind of ecstasy. You know, he was smiling. He was getting ready to defeat this person that, you know, he had taken up arms to fight, that was standing in the way of dharma, of what's right, of the righteous. One friend addressed Krishna in this manner, "My dear Madhusudana, you know my strength. You are encouraging Bhadrasena and not me to challenge mighty Baladev. By this action, you are simply insulting me because my arms are as strong as the bolts of a gate." So then, you know, here's a person, you know, in this pastime, here's a friend that's kind of, he's very enthusiastic to get into this chivalrous exchange, or to this, you know, kind exchange, or this while fighting, you know, it's very relishable. A devotee once said, "My dear Lord Krishna, may your challenger Sri Dhamma become glorious for his chivalrous activities, such as vibrating like a thundercloud and roaring like a lion. May all glories go to Sri Dhamma's chivalrous activities." Chivalrous activities in the matter of fighting, charity, mercy, and execution of religious rituals are called constitutional, whereas expressions of pride, emotion, endurance, kindness, determination, jubilance, enthusiasm, jealousy, and remembrance are called unconstitutional. When Stoka Krishna, one of many friends of Krishna, was fighting with him, his father chastised him for fighting with Krishna, who was the life and soul of all residents of Vrindavan. Upon hearing these chastisements, Stoka Krishna stopped his fighting, but Krishna continued to challenge him, and thus, in order to meet the challenge, Stoka Krishna took his pole and began to display his dexterity by whirling it. So we can see the little bit of difference. You know, pride, particularly pride, Prabhupada put here in the very first thing. When there's pride in that sort of chivalrous ras, pride will always get in the way of a pure intention. So if, you know, the intention is to smite down the enemy, for instance, it really depends on what the intention is. Are you doing this for your own self-interest? Are you doing it for, you know, in your own pride, your own ego? Or are you doing it because there's some actual, you know, the result will be good? Is there actually a way forward with a good result and with satisfying as many who are in this whole, because have you ever noticed when there's fighting, you know, people love watching fighting. As far back as grade school, as there was a fight on the playground, everybody would rush. You know, there's 2 5-year-olds, everybody would rush and want to see this fight. And whether it's, you know, wrestling or boxing or, you know, so many different methods of fighting, it's somehow it is very attractive to see who the winner's going to be, because it's a competition. It satisfies this deep desire, I think it satisfies this deep desire in human beings to, you know, they see a challenge and it's sort of an awe and reverence, you know, wow, who is going to be victorious? Who should my attention go to? Who should I put my faith in? I mean, even people bet lot of money on who's going to win a fight, informal or formal, even fights among animals. Fighting is somehow, for many, it's very attractive, and they get a lot of, maybe sick pleasure. I'm talking about this world, not in Krishna's time, but a lot of sick pleasure out of seeing the loser, seeing somebody beat down, beyond repair. And, that's unfortunately our defect. But if there's pride and even emotion and jealousy, there's all these things that come up, those things aren't considered very chivalrous. Those things, they might be there. They might be in the mind or, somehow in the back of the mind, but they don't have a place in real chivalrous type of battle or chivalrous exchanges. It can even be vocal, oratory exchanges, say a debate. How many, we know about the three kinds of discussions. There's samvat, there's vada, and there's vitanda. And the vitanda part of that debate, where somebody must win, even if they're not right, they must win, and they're just going to keep, pushing down, trying to push down the other debater or the other person discussing. That's not, an exchange. It's not an exchange. It's actually becomes, a botheration or an annoyance. And if there's somebody in that category, they really shouldn't be regarded, because if they're not, especially if they're Vaishnavas, if they're not following the sort of unwritten rules of that exchange, that chivalrous exchange, that kind of two-way discussion, they can't be regarded as being in a genuine position of authority or of trust, because then it devolves into just self-satisfaction for their own, whatever their own ego purposes are. They're not really attempting to resolve anything. Fighting is usually done to resolve disputes, whether it's subtle fighting or gross fighting. It's because there's a dispute and there needs to be a resolution. Of course, it's not the best way to resolve things if you break out into a fist fight or some other kind of bodily harming fight. That's not necessarily the way to solve things. Of course, we see in this instance it was. There's so many instances of that in the Bhagavatam, because sometimes demons just can't be rectified. They can't be talked to. Things can't be discussed in a mannerly fashion. They're not reasonable. They're not able to be in touch with reality, the reality of things as everyone else sees it. They're in their own narrow tunnel of reality. They can't really see outside of it because they've become entrenched in that position. So for us, as we, of course, read about, the chivalrous intentions of Pradyumna, it's very enlivening. And just to go back to what the Acharyas had said about this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, saying, "Oh, attack as long as you can," he received Dyuman's attack and then counterattacked, piercing him with 8 arrows. So he even says that Pradyumna was saying, "Oh, attack as long as you can. It's okay, you're going to die soon," sort of that attitude. He attacked Dyuman, who had penetrated his army, and pierced him in response to his attacks with special arrows. He smiled as a sign of his perseverance as a warrior. He was not angry. Thus, his smiling is praise. That's what Jiva Goswami says. 10 minutes ago, he had his armor off and he was unconscious from the battlefield. So he couldn't really do much in that instance, but it's such an exhilarating when you get beaten down or you're struck down, and of course he chastised his charioteer, but then when you get up and you dust yourself off and you go back into battle, it's very exhilarating. It's a very exhilarating sort of feeling. Sanatana Goswami says, he attacked Yuman, who had penetrated his army and pierced him in response to his attacks, or in each limb with his special arrows. He smiled as a sign of his perseverance as a warrior, or to indicate that it was easy. Of course it was easy. And then when he finally shot the arrow to cut off his head, I mean, first he did all the things to shred up his reputation, his emblem, his driver, his horses. Everything was destroyed. So he got to see, he got that comeuppance. He got to see all those things just before his own head was taken away. The word vai indicates everything, including his head. So he dispatched everything with his iron arrows. And that sets the precedence, or that sets the scene to this whole chapter, which is the deliverance of Shalva. So I'm sure when Shalva is going to hear that his commander-in-chief was beheaded, that wasn't that uncommon, but of course, when you hear that your main go-to guy who's taking care of everything is beheaded, he will be very much afraid, and that's when one becomes in fear of their life. And also, it's actually a challenge because, this person's doing this to my commander-in-chief. How dare he? That's actually the, that kind of unchivalrous Bob. That's when it's just sort of like a petulant child with a, that's wants to get their way and has this big ego. So I'll stop there because the next one is when that actually turned the tide. Pradyumna leaving, and then he did lose some of his army. Some of his army was hit hard. His positions were hit hard, but this turned the tide in the war, or in the little mini thing. And now with his smiling face, this is ushering in that bit of hope that everything is going to be okay. This is as much for the reader as whoever was witnessing on the field. I'm sure it struck a lot of fear in Dyuman's heart to see him smiling, and then a barrage of arrows ripping up his whole construct of who he is and what he's doing. And only that can be done by the most chivalrous and little aspect of Krishna, a little part of a devotee, which would be this Pradyumna. And, we can actually take that away too, that when we encounter those people and we're able to dispatch them easily from their nonsense, because I'm sure that also Dyuman is going to have a wonderful destination, having been dispatched by Pradyumna. But we can also try to help others in that way. Maybe it doesn't feel good on the ego, it's not good for them in that way, but they can at least be rectified, hopefully, in the next instance of battle. Is there any comments? We have a couple seconds or a minute left. Oh yeah, it's so enlivening. I'm right there with him.
Standing up to Krishna or his servant, no demon can stand.
No demon can stand. There's no way. Good always triumphs over evil. The light always takes over the dark. It's an indisputable fact. And those of us who are upholders of the light and who are trying to bring everybody to the light, we can help those that aren't so forward into the light. Maybe.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachari Satarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachari Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nitya Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Om Vishnu Padma Public Charity Secretary Sada Shri Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikar Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Gaurani Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mai Pranavadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagat Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Priyamadanga Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru Garanga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Couple announcements before we do Shastika. Happy birthday, Mother Jayarani Ki Jai! Haribo! Our beloved Jayarani Mataji is such a pillar of our community, literally building the new temple. Hey, Haribo. And we're having Harinam Sankirtan like we did last week. It'll be in Chapel Hill, 4 to 6. It's going to be much cooler this week than last week, so it'll be a nice afternoon to go out and give Krishna consciousness to all these confused students wandering around. Saturday, this Saturday, 4 p.m. in front of the post office on Churton Street. I mean, not Churton Street, Franklin Street. Haribo. Chaitodarpanam Arjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bauda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi. Thank you. Erdaiva Mishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amani Namana Dana Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktya Haitaki Twai Hainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadhushim Vachintaya Nainam Gadadashudaya Varanam Gadgadurudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Bravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahiname Ashlishava Padamritam Anastumam Adarshanam Marmahatakarotuva Yatatatava Vidadatulam Pato Mat Pranatasusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, when chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction in living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Right of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others in such a state of mind. Chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Oh, Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I've fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastra Ki Jai. Thank you, Mother Radharangani, for dressing Sri Sri Golokananda so nicely, coming here from such a distance and doing this nice service. And downstairs, Dairadika and team have made a nice offering for the deities. So another day to be Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.